Hello, kids. Welcome in and welcome back. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, underway for another day. This Wednesday edition, just getting started. Thank you for being here. Hold on while I put on my... You watching on Super Talk TV, I'm putting on my mic condom as we speak, making sure that everyone's nice and protected. It's 6 minutes after the hour on this Wednesday edition, October 16, 2024. Thank you for being around. My name is Matt Murphy, and I'm here till 3. The Drive with Brian Wilson comes up then. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way, shall we? We'll introduce you to the players of the show, make sure you know what's going on, and get us underway. It is episode 673 of our proceedings today. We got 20 days to go before the presidential election. It is locked for Trump Day 228. For 228 days, I've been growing out these flowing locks in anticipation of a new president-elect. I started this way before Joe Biden dumped out of the race. Now he's gone. Kamala Harris is in there. Donald Trump's in there, and I've made a commitment that if Donald Trump does, in fact, win the election, I'm keeping the hair at least until Inauguration Day. So you got that going for you. There's Ken Weaver. He's back in the newsroom gathering headlines as we speak, already preparing another award-winning newscast coming up at the bottom of the hour. Hello, Mr. Weaver.
How about you?
How's it going?
Going good. Going real good.
Hey, it looks like Bell K, fresh off of his flu, is raw dogging it today without a mask or anything.
Yeah.
You see what that's a callback, Bell, to an event that you have no knowledge of. Bell K's back in the house.
Yes, sir.
Look, one person. Oh, no, there's two. There's three.
I'll
Good to
clap
have
for
Brother Bell
myself.
back. Yes, sir.
What's up, Bell?
I feel like crap.
Wow,
I'm sorry
man,
to hear it.
You can hear it. You
Oh,
can
my
hear
goodness
it.
gracious. Why are you here? You're not contagious, are you?
Well, we're going to find out.
Well, I got my Cyber Clean Power Gel from 2020 ready to go if you need some, Brother Bell.
I was just telling Freddie's security detail to wash her hands after using my key.
Says it's got 72% alcohol.
Do you need 72% alcohol power antibiotic gel in the Ken Weaver newsroom?
80 proof is pretty good.
Might try it in my next cup of coffee.
So you were accused of having the brown water flu Monday. You're here to dispel that myth today.
Yes, I wish it was because that would have been better after a day without.
Did you have the flu?
Yeah, I still do kind of.
Yeah, you.
Kind of got a cold.
Why are you? Do you need to borrow an extra sick day? Is that what it is?
But they don't let us do that, man.
I have 4.67 sick days. I'm willing to give you the 0.67 if you want to go home now.
How do they break it down?
I have 0.5 left.
How do they break it? I think, it accrues day by day. So every so often you go in there and you see that, oh, look, I have 4.75 sick days or whatever it is.
That'll all be.
Huh? I mean,
who the hell's going to take us 0.75 of a day?
I mean, I'll give you that if you need it.
They don't let us do that.
Oh, I can't give you any of my sick days.
No.
Okay.
Doesn't work that way.
I would
wish it would.
I would if I could, Bell.
If they'd let you do that, I'd take those vacation days you have left over.
Yeah, I got a lot of those too, despite the fact that people think I take a lot of days off. I counted it up. I've only taken 7 vacation days this year.
So you're going to
out of 20.
And how many do you have? How many do you have scheduled before the end of the year?
I'll take 4 days off over the Christmas holiday.
So you're still going to have 13 you could have burned.
No. I'll walk with. I'll not use 9 vacation days this year.
That's just crazy.
And you got to use all them vacation days.
Oh no, man!
I
love
do
what
it, Brother Murphy.
I absolutely love what I do.
Well, you can love it and still want to go on a vacation somewhere with your wife.
I
Get up to Gatlinburg or take her to Hawaii like a real man. And
Hawaii?
Yeah.
Hawaii freaks me out.
Why?
You've been, right?
Oh, twice.
You've been twice to Hawaii. Ken Weaver, you ever been to Hawaii?
Never been.
I've never been. I don't know, because I look on a map, and I know everything you're going to say to me, but I look on a map, and it looks like it's just this tiny speck, and it freaks me out.
Well,
I don't like it.
I have to let you know, it's a tiny speck out there in the middle of the Pacific.
I mean, yeah, it's a tiny speck even when you get there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care for that.
How long does it take how long is the flight?
Both times I went, I flew from Dallas, and it was like 6.5 hours.
That's not bad.
Wait, from Dallas?
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
See, I would have thought it was 6.5 hours from
California.
From California.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm not adding the flight from Dallas to L.A. or I went out of San Francisco one time. So
what's the longest flight you ever been on, Weaver?
Probably not very long. I think the longest flight I was ever on was maybe 4 hours.
Okay.
That was about it, and that's because it was just one straight shot.
Yeah. Bell, is that the longest flight you've been on, Hawaii?
No, 13 hours.
Where the hell did you go that you were on a plane? You went to, let me guess, Asia.
Germany.
Yeah. Okay.
13 hours.
That's a long time to be on a plane. I don't remember. My longest flight was like an 8-hour deal from Atlanta to Amsterdam. And I don't really remember it because the guy I was flying with said, hey, I was worried about being on an airplane, and I was still a smoker at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm worried because I'm going to want a cigarette and I'm going to get antsy and all of these things. And I'm just concerned about it. He said, are you going to have a drink when the lady comes around to offer us drinks? And I said, yeah, probably. And so I had a drink and he handed me a pill. He said, take that. Don't ask.
Did you ask?
No, it was a Valium.
Oh.
He handed me and I had my drink and I finished our meal and I went to bed. And when I woke up, they told us we were 30 minutes from the Amsterdam airport.
All of your ills were solved.
Oh, it was all good. And I looked around and everybody was looking at me grumpy. And I said, why is everybody looking at me grumpy? And Mike said, you snore.
Yeah, I'd be mad at you too.
I was like, well, I didn't hear myself. All right, we got a lot to get to. Bell mentioned it. Freddie O'Connell is on the way. He'll be stopping by today, at least by 12:30. But if he gets here early, we'll get him in here early because we have a lot to talk about with the mayor of Nashville, not the least of which the transit tax that will be on the ballot for those of you in Davidson County. We'll ask all of the pertinent questions and get your questions in, if you so desire, on the membersnutrition.com super text line, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. That's the way to get those questions in for Freddie O'Connell. He'll be here from 12:30 to 1 o'clock or whenever he gets here. We've lots to discuss with regard to presidential election maneuvering, I guess we could call it, with Kamala Harris deciding that she needs to get herself in front of certain voters where she's not performing very admirably or well. Charlemagne the God is the name of a podcaster that has risen to some level of prominence, particularly within the African-American community. She was on that podcast yesterday, and we'll give you all of the pertinent details on that. Walgreens is closing 1,200 stores nationwide, just another example of the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris economy. Did you see where 7-Eleven is closing some 400 or 500 stores as well? And nobody can seem to figure out why. I think I might have a clue as to why that is. 7-Eleven blamed the lack of cigarette sales. I'm not making that up.
Yeah, that was a big part of it.
That was a big deal. If more of you people would just take up the smoking,
yes,
7-Eleven would be just fine. But as it stands, because you people won't go in and buy $8 packs of cigarettes, well, 7-Eleven has to close down. You're welcome.
And it won't stunt your growth. I did it for 20 years, and look at me. I'm 5, 6.5. You were
a 20-year guy?
Yeah.
How long ago did you quit?
2006.
Wow. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out. I started when I was 15. I smoked for 17 years. I was 32 when I quit. I'm 51 now. That's 18 years ago. When was that?
18 years ago.
That's 2006.
Yeah.
How about that?
What do you know about that, Brother Murphy? We did it at the same time. We didn't even know each other.
That? Oh, what'd you get for quitting? Better health.
Yeah, better health.
Sure.
I feel a lot better. My colds that I used to get, not as bad.
I used to feel like crap every morning. I would stand under a hot shower and just eventually spit. Oh, it's gross.
It's horrible.
It's just awful.
I got to a point where sleeping, I could actually hear my lungs breathing. And I thought, okay.
Oh, yeah,
we got to do something.
Yeah.
I got real sick, got a lung infection, and then I quit.
You know, I was helping somebody out online last night with regard. They stopped smoking last week, and they're saying, I'm trying. And my biggest two tips for stopping smoking, it's two big things. And one of them is a little more controversial than the other. The other is just a mindset. Number one, you're not trying to quit, and you're not quitting. You don't smoke. Y'all hear me?
Yep.
You don't smoke. You either smoke or you don't smoke.
Right.
So if you smoked for 20 years and you decide you no longer wish to smoke, now you don't smoke. Why would a non-smoker smoke a cigarette? You see where the mindset change is? You're not trying to quit. You're not struggling to quit.
Yeah.
You're not quitting.
Right.
You don't smoke.
You either do it or you don't.
That's right. There's no trying or all that stuff.
You can chew all the gum in the world.
All you want.
You've just got to eventually put it down. You've got to stop.
The number 2 way to quit smoking, my grandfather gave me this advice. It's one of the ways that he did it, and it's the way that I did it. And it's a little more controversial for people. Keep a pack of cigarettes with you at all times. Keep a pack of cigarettes with you at all times. My grandfather told me when he quit smoking, he smoked 3 packs a day. He smoked Cools. He had 9 packs of cigarettes in his glove box of his work truck when he quit. But what my grandfather told me is that he knew that if he did not have access to a cigarette, it would drive him absolutely crazy. But he also said this, but I knew that I could beat a cigarette. I could beat an inanimate object. It wasn't the fact that it was there. It was my willpower that was going to create a dynamic by which I would, he didn't say it this way, but this is what I took from it. He said, I knew that if cigarettes beat me, they're right there, and all I have to do is go get one. If they win, they're right there. And I did it too, and I had a pack of cigarettes in my house for 1.5 years after I quit smoking. I mean, John said that's what my dad did. He carried a packet of cigarettes in his pocket for 1 year. Larry says, I've been smoking for 49 years. I ain't hooked. Well, Mark Twain, it was Mark Twain's quotes. Like, everybody talks about how hard it is to quit. It's the easiest thing I've ever done. I've probably quit 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But we wish you good health in this election season. It is early voting day in the state of Tennessee. We'll talk about that today. Kamala Harris is appearing on Fox News and Brett Baer tonight. I think Brett Baer will do just fine. I know many of you are, he's going to ask softballs. Well, I've been around the block a time or two, and I understand what they are doing, the Kamala Harris team, what they are doing to prevent harder questions from Brett Baer. I'll tell you about that later on today. I have an update on Trooper the dog. I don't know if you guys remember Trooper the dog, who was chained up to a fence in anticipation of Hurricane Helene coming through Florida, and troopers found the dog on the fence and rescued him. Well, the scumbag that chained the dog to the fence has been found and arrested and will be charged with animal cruelty charges. We'll update you on that as well. Plus, Mr. Freddie O'Connell is on the way in the 12 o'clock hour. So lots to get to. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I mentioned it's episode 673. Bel K's back in the house, and while he does not make an appearance on Super Talk TV, he does give us our titles. What is our title today, Bel?
Matt Murphy and your daily dose. And I could use a dose too.
You sound so sad.
It just
sounds so sad.
I'm whipped.
Man, I got some ibuprofen. You want some?
No, well, if it's code for something, sure.
I got some tequila. Do you want some?
Yeah, we can do that.
I got some rainbow pills.
You take one of those, you won't feel anything.
I always keep a rainbow in my left pocket just in case it's a cloudy day.
Oh, see there? That's why I like Ken Weaver back in the newsroom. He brings a spot of lighthearted, just some brightness in the room. Not like you, Bel. You're just there's a dark cloud over your head right now. I don't like it. Darker than usual. See what I'm saying? That's just mean. That's just mean. It's 19 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Middle Tennessee. We've spoken to Brink Fiddler and his team for a while now. You've heard them often on the Matt Murphy Show, giving advice as to what you should do in regards to a workplace violence situation, an active shooter situation. I mean, we live in a dangerously developing world. We hear these stories all the time. What do you do if you find yourself in a situation where somebody needs medical response? Do you know what to do and what not to do? Brink Fiddler helps you and your team understand that. He empowers you, giving you an opportunity to understand threat assessment, security improvement, emergency and intruder action plans, rapid response medical training, and they're all designed to customize to your facility and to your needs. So whether you're a business owner or you own or operate a school or a church, it's time to get trained up. Hope is not a plan. Let's get trained with the best with Defend Systems. Call today to find out what some of your options might be. You can go to defendsystems.com online or call 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for Defend Systems. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here for Savory Spice. It is that season, right? That fall season where we begin talking about pumpkin this and pumpkin that. And if you're thinking about pumpkin spice, did you know that pumpkin spice has no pumpkin in it? It's the spice that goes in the pumpkin. But pumpkin pie spice is available at Savory Spice. They have some delicious items at Savory Spice ready for the fall recipe of your choosing. They have, of course, their Spice and Easy line of products. They've got all of the spices for the fall that you need to make those delicious recipes, whether it's fall cooking, maybe it's chili that you're thinking about now that it's getting as cold as it is in the nighttime hours. They've got it at Savory Spice and ready for you. 2 locations to serve you. One, L&L Market on Charlotte Pike. The other is in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. When you stop in, you'll smell the smell, you'll hear the sounds, and you'll absolutely love it. I'm telling you, all levels of expertise with regard to the kitchen. Whether you're an experienced chef, I mean, you'll see chefs in there buying from Savory Spice. Or if you're brand new, they can help walk you through the process. Savory Spice. You up your food game by upping your spice game. You up your spice game at Savory Spice.
Metro Police say a teenager was arrested arriving at school this morning in Nashville for something he had in his pocket. Details at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So Kamala Harris is a little bit upside down with regard to the African-American vote, and I say a little bit upside down. Obviously, Democrats get more of the African-American vote than does the Republican candidate, and they have for a long, long time. However, there is a trend line that many have noticed within political circles that's circulating around that would lead us to understand why Kamala Harris felt the need to go on the podcast Charlemagne the God. And she didn't do herself, in my opinion, a lot of favors on that podcast. But the trend line is the Democrat margin of the Democrat margin of black male voters under the age of 45 in presidential elections If you go back to November of 2012, Barack Obama had an 81% margin over his opponent, Mitt Romney, in 2012. That's not his percentage. That's not to say he had 81%, Mitt Romney had 19%. That was his margin over Mitt Romney's figure, which was like at 9% or something or another. It was just incredible. Absolutely incredible. That was his margin. His actual percentage was like 90. Hillary Clinton had a margin of 63%. Okay? You look at Joe Biden in 2020, his margin was down. Now, this is a margin of his lead. How much he was polling beyond whatever competitor. I mean, obviously for Hillary Clinton in 2016, it was Donald Trump. For Joe Biden, it was Donald Trump. Joe Biden was around 53%, which is a drop-off. So Obama's number was 81% amongst African-American males under the age of 45. Biden's was 53%. If you look at Kamala Harris, she's up 41%. So that's from 81% to 41%. That's about half the margin that Barack Obama won in November of 2012. In 12 years, they've cut that margin in half. And by they, I mean Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump represents authenticity. This is my take on this. Donald Trump is authentic with the people that he's talking to. Kamala Harris comes off as somebody that will say anything and everything. And she was asked the question last night, anything and everything to win a vote. And she was asked, wait a minute, you're coming out with this black empowerment stuff now? Where you been? And she goes, oh, all you have to do is look back at my record. I've only been a presidential candidate for 70 days. You look back about, what are you talking about, your record? We have looked at your record, ma'am. Your record was incarcerating black males at an astounding rate for low-level drug offenses in California. That's your record. Your record over the last 3 years is a do-nothing vice president. What have you done over the last 3.5 years? You've been vice president. And many would suggest that at least over the last 6 or 8 months, you've been the de facto president. What about now? Why won't you do something right now? They have no answers. But it is of interest to me that the Democrats are not commanding the leads in these block identity voting groups that they have enjoyed for so many years this cycle around, and it bodes well for November 5th. It's 28 after the hour. We'll take a timeout a little early so we can get to Freddie O'Connell on the back end. Nashville Mayor's up next.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and let's check traffic, shall we? We've had a big issue this morning on the westbound South Loop downtown. That looks like that has cleared up in the past half hour. We had a crash right there where you go southbound on 65, then a stalled vehicle, but it looks like that has cleared up, and getting around downtown right now looks like it's going to be slow go if you're eastbound 24 there on the East Loop, and then east of there, over at the 40-24 split. Metro Police say a 16-year-old Antioch High School student was arrested this morning for having a gun at the school yesterday. SROs learned about it over social media. They located him upon arrival. Say he had it in his pants. He told them it's not his gun. Police determined the gun wasn't stolen. That kid is charged with juvenile court with juvenile handgun possession and carrying a gun on school property. TBI is investigating after the officer-involved shooting that shut down I-24 in Murfreesboro overnight. The sheriff's office said deputies were conducting a traffic stop of a wanted suspect around 1:40 this morning near the Joe B. Jackson exit near Murfreesboro when shots were fired and the suspect was critically injured. Paramedics arrived, did all they could. The suspect later died at the hospital. Back here in Nashville, while we're on the subject of shootings, News 2 says since Friday there have been at least 8 across Nashville. That has left 5 people dead, 13 others injured. The majority of those victims, 1 dead and as many as 9 injured, were from Saturday when police say gang members started shooting at each other after the TSU homecoming parade. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy, Tennessee Men's Clinic wants to see you, gentlemen. If you're feeling run down or sluggish, if you don't feel the energy that you once had and you're just chalking it up to middle age, it does not necessarily mean that it is middle age. It could be a T-level issue. Do you know? If the answer is no, you don't know, then I want you to know. I want you to know your levels. I want you to know your numbers so that you can act on these issues. And the way to do that is to get with Tennessee Men's Clinic. Schedule an appointment today and allow them to give you a once-over. Their qualified urologist will meet with you. They'll talk with you about where you're feeling it. I mean, if you're not feeling it at the gym, if you're not feeling it in the bedroom, if you've lost that desire for intimacy with your significant other, that's a big deal in a relationship. And it can matter in your relationship. And we want to right that wrong at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or give them a call today at 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Tennessee Men's Clinic. Hey, folks, you don't have to wait until November to start taking our country back. You can get into the fight right now with Coin, which is the conservative credit card. Instead of funneling millions of dollars to the left like other cards, Coin advances conservative values and goes to conservative charity. You can earn cash back while fighting back. Apply now at coin.com. That's COIGN.com. That's coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details and tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Coin. Welcome back. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Exciting to have the mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, in studio with us to talk about matters involving early voting, Election Day, the city of Nashville generally, and Davidson County. And obviously, the hot topic, it is the transit tax proposal that will be on the ballot November 5th. Or if you vote early, obviously, if you're in Davidson County, it will be on there as you vote. And Freddie joins us in studio this afternoon. Hello, Freddie.
Matt, good to be back with you.
Thank you for being with us. It's early voting day. Have you voted?
I have not. Planning to go over. We've got a couple new early voting locations on the map and on the calendar this year, so I'm going to go over to the Lentz Public Health Center tomorrow to check out the new early voting location.
Okay, excellent. You voting for Trump?
Unlikely.
Unlikely. I came up with a bar. I thought I'd make a bargain with you today, Freddie.
Oh, okay.
You encourage people to vote for Trump, and I'll encourage people to vote for the transit tax.
That
seems like a fair deal
for that bargain.
You're not going for that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I tried.
But you did try.
I gave it a go.
Appreciate the effort.
Obviously, this is a big deal for you. It's a big proposal for your administration. For those maybe unfamiliar with it, we've been talking about it. We had some of the opponents on the show discussing their opposition to it and wanted you a fair opportunity to talk about why you believe people should vote yes.
Yeah. So for us as a city, one of the things that you've probably noticed in being here, right, is that traffic has gotten worse. Parking scenarios have gotten worse as we have grown. To me, interacting with our growth, talking to people in the business community, but also residents for years about doing things that we see other cities doing well. And when they do that, when they build sidewalks, when they modernize their traffic grids, when they create kind of large city scale of transit systems that actually operates 24/7, 365, in almost every case, you find cities our size, larger, slightly smaller, having some kind of dedicated funding for transportation and infrastructure. And so we're one of only 4 of the top 50 American cities that does not have this. The state back in 2017 created legislation called the Improve Act that lets local jurisdictions and even regional jurisdictions go out and ask the local legislative body to approve a program that could support transit and transportation and infrastructure, and then have voters ratify it. And so that's what we're working on.
Explain the nuts and bolts. Like if I just landed in Nashville from another state or just a different environment, what are we talking about in terms of what the tax will be and what specifically will it go to?
Yep, it's a half-penny sales tax surcharge on every dollar. And so if you or I went into Target, Walmart, Kroger, spent $50, we'd put a quarter in the jar for the plan over the 15-year build-out period. And it's consistent with where every other county in Middle Tennessee except Sumner is right now. So if you go shop in Providence and Mount Juliet, if you go shop at Cool Springs Galleria, you're already going to be paying that 9 3/4%. So it's a very consistent with the region approach to capture. We expect more than 50% of that sales tax capture to actually be paid by out-of-county either residents or visitors, so it takes advantage of our destination economy and gets some regional buy-in to it. We've had good regional support for the program, and that funding mechanism goes to all the things that you can see in there. The whole program itself is up, dozens of pages at nashville.gov/transit. You can read the whole thing. The accounting principles under the Improve Act had to be reviewed by the comptroller, independently audited. And so every penny that we collect, every federal dollar or state dollar that we bring in to support the program, all goes to the things that are in it. This is not a, hey, we go out and collect revenue and make it up as we go. The whole program had to be defined up front, and all of the revenue goes specifically into those multi-year build-outs of corridors like Nolensville, Murfreesboro, Dickerson, Gallatin, and Maine, to make sure that we can plan for them for the long run.
So it's an expansion of the bus transit system.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? I mean, I feel like there's several components, physical components to it. What else is involved outside of the bus component?
Yeah. 4 key principles in it: sidewalk, signals, service, and safety. It creates 86 miles of sidewalk over that build-out period. It modernizes 2/3 of our signalized intersections so that they will now, through fiber, be able to communicate directly with a new state-of-the-art traffic management center. This should mean more green lights for everybody. We're projecting a 10% reduction in time spent in traffic for everybody, and no matter what part of the city you live in. So it's spread out across all 526 square miles. And then, yes, an upgrade to a 24/7, 365 transit system that doesn't just rely on people coming into downtown. We just opened the Rip Patton North Nashville Community Transit Center that expanded jobs access immediately from 10,000 to 60,000 on the day it opened, because WeGo was able to align routes that allowed people to go out Trinity Lane and cross the river without coming downtown.
So I want to take these kind of one by one because I want to understand it best. The sidewalks that you're talking about, you said 86?
86 miles.
Is that in addition to what's already being built?
Correct. So this is kind of a both-and approach. It's not like we would vote for this program and then suddenly NDOT and WeGo would stop the things that they're doing already today. Right now today, NDOT builds an average of about 6 miles of sidewalk a year, and it's split kind of down the middle of new sidewalk construction and sidewalk repairs. It's hard to make a dent in our billion-dollar backlog, and it's hard to make a dent in the priority sidewalk network, which is focused along those corridors. Like if you walked out from downtown along any of our major pikes and corridors, you're probably going to hit a segment of dirt path where people are walking, but it isn't safe. And when it rains, it's even worse. So it would fill in those gaps with that 86 miles.
When you talk about bus service and additional transit service, that would obviously necessitate bus lanes. Are these lanes that will be converted to bus lanes, or will these be new constructed lanes?
Some of them, so it's going to depend on a corridor by corridor basis. We think some places will be simply too narrow to accommodate it, but on a street like Murfreesboro Pike, where you've got huge width from curb to curb along a lot of that alignment, sometimes with 3 travel lanes in both directions, we think you could either accommodate all existing travel lanes plus some dedicated right-of-way for buses, but in some cases you may be looking at some portion of that segment, some portion of that corridor where you would look for the efficiencies in travel flow, because you're just going to see more green lights from end to end on the corridor, so that your throughput on people choosing to drive would still be better than what's on the corridor today, and maybe also accommodate some dedicated right-of-way for transit vehicles, for emergency vehicles, for things that we may be able to pilot in the future, like automated vehicles.
How many people are riding buses now, and do you think that this will make bus riding attractive in a way? I've argued that, and you probably will disagree with it. I mean, you might not. I've argued that people ride the bus because they have to, not because they want to. And I've watched as city leaders all over America try to figure out a way to make people want to ride the bus, and particularly in the Southeast, is a very, very difficult task. Do you believe that you can create some sort of honeypot approach where people will want to choose the bus over another mode of transportation?
I mean, that's certainly in the mix, but I wouldn't say we're trying to get anybody out of their car. That's why we wanted to design a program that worked. This is really about providing more and better options. We know definitely from where people are creating dirt paths by walking that there is an interest in more sidewalks. We have heard it all over the county from people who want to be able to walk their kids to school, all that kind of thing. The sidewalks piece is very easy. With transit, it's been a very clear thing. I spent 7 years on our local MTA's board of directors. COVID obviously changed a lot of things about workforce, but we're seeing major employers like Amazon, which has a big presence here, also Vanderbilt University and the Medical Center, as they've seen their workforce always have to be there with healthcare technicians, doctors, nurses, and patient population. That university presence, I mean, that's a workforce that's 40,000 plus strong. And Vanderbilt remains the largest transit trip generator in the region. Now, some of those people may very well be doing it because they have to, but you also get some people who prefer not to have to think about trying to park at Vanderbilt or other special events. We see a lot of, when the STAR, our commuter rail route, is aligned with special events here, New Year's Eve train, 4th of July train, Titans game trains, those routinely sell out. Like, they sell every seat on the STAR for that. And so we've started to see the Titans offer service not just to the stadium, but on every home game day, making sure that service is free. Traditionally, what you've seen is when you make it extremely frictionless, like there is no barrier to getting on a transit vehicle, it's much easier for people to ride. So like when our family, this season of Nashville SC, they made every home game free for getting to and from the stadium. We would see other people in Nashville SC kit get on the bus and get over there because you just walk on, you don't have to think about it. But we also know that expanding those options for people who are transit dependent is a big deal. And every time we've increased service levels or frequency in WeGo, we have watched ridership go up.
It's been my experience over the years that I've been doing this, whether it is here in Nashville, Birmingham, or wherever, that when these proposals come along, that people, if they feel like they're being duped or if they feel like they're not being told the full truth, that they kind of gravitate to no. And I'm talking about people that might be convinced to vote yes. And one of the major concerns that I've heard about this project is that they don't feel like the leadership involved in the project is being completely honest about the cost.
Okay.
That the cost is really $6.9 billion. Well, not $3.1 billion as your administration has been saying.
So here's what I would say. The legal language that is required by the Improve Act requires exactly the figures that we have put on the ballot. And I would put it this way.
But as a councilman, didn't you, 6 years ago, didn't you strenuously argue
I did not
to be more
strenuously argue it.
You and Bob Mendez did, didn't you?
Well, we supported it. Bob Mendez sat on the front row, and what happened then was an initiative led by then Councilmember Cooper. I got all 5 council members at large to support an additional figure on the ballot. This year, we did check in with council members, and they actually sent us a letter that said we prefer the simplicity and clarity of this other number.
How is the lower number simpler and more clarifying? It would seem to me it's more clarifying to give the total cost, including the capital amount of money.
Here, I'll ask you a quick question.
And the service. I mean, you're not including the service of the debt, are you?
Are you?
Are you including the service of the debt on the $3.1 billion?
Well, it is. It would be what the total cost of construction if you built everything today.
So you're not including the 15-year.
Right. And so let me ask
That
you
would be the
this.
$6.9 billion, right?
Correct.
Why aren't you using that figure?
So are you a homeowner in Middle Tennessee?
I am not.
Okay. Well, I am. And when we bought our house, when we talk about it, nobody says, no realtor says, hey, this house is listing for $300,000, but the total cost, if you include the mortgage, is actually going to be $600,000.
Yeah, because you could easily pull out a checkbook if you have the funds and cut a check for that amount of money. The cost,
we could do
the cost of the financing.
We could do the same thing.
But you have to include. But you're asking me to fund the full amount, and you're not telling me what the full amount's going to be. You're just telling me the sale price of the.
We are telling you exactly what happens in the same scenario there, where if we could pay cash today and build the whole thing right now,
it would be 3.1.
Yes,
but you can't.
But we can't, and so
who's going to foot that bill over the life of the loan?
Anybody who is contributing to it through
the sales tax.
Yeah.
Right. So why not just tell them what it's going to cost them up front? Isn't that the simpler way to do it?
I mean,
you know what it's going to cost, right?
Well, that's actually the hardest part. We have a forecast, but we also have watched a period where inflation went up and came back down. We don't know what the interest rates will be because it's not like we're going to go issue a $3.1 billion bond on November 6th if this passes, right? So you may see that you get better, more favorable interest rates when you're going to bond out a specific project. I mean, this will probably involve multiple issuances of bonds over the life of the program, some of which may be more expensive.
Well, tell me this. We know without question that it's going to cost the taxpayers more than $3.1 billion.
We know that over the life of the 15-year build-out,
without question, it's going to cost more than that
on day one. Right.
Then why not tell the taxpayers what the estimate on the total cost will be?
Because
like you wanted to do 6 years ago in the last transit proposal.
For the same reason that you don't, especially on a
why was it right then? And why was it right then and not right now? You argued along with Bob Mendez, who was in your administration, right?
Yeah.
All right. So y'all argued 6 years ago that it was the right thing to do, the transparent thing to do 6 years ago to put the total cost on the ballot.
And
you're arguing against that now, and I want to know why.
We had some leadership on the council that persuaded all of the citywide
No, I'm asking you.
leaders.
I'm asking Freddie O'Connell. You argued in favor of it.
I didn't argue in favor of it. I said
you didn't argue in favor of it 6 years ago? You voted for it?
I did vote for it.
Then tell me what has changed.
The change has been in the folks on council. I'll say it this way. The Berry administration did not recommend that larger figure then. Mayor Cooper got all 5 council members at large to put together a letter, and I voted in support of that. And this time around, we did the same thing. We took the proposal to council. They sent to the council.
So you're saying the lack of transparency on this piece of legislation that we'll be voting on November 5th is the fault of the Metro Council, not you.
I would not call it a lack of transparency. I would say in both cases, in 2018 and this year, the overall recommendation was to comply fully with the Improve Act and the legal requirements for ballot language, take it to the Metro Council who get to approve it. In 2018, they made one decision. 2024, they made a different decision.
I mean, it's just a difference of opinion. I just think you would maybe get more people on board with the idea if you just told them what you expected it's going to cost over the life of servicing the debt.
Yeah, in the ballot language, I mean, I would say I'm not. We may. I mean,
do you think it benefits you to have a lower figure? Do you think it benefits you, like it makes it more appealing to people who are going and voting for it?
I think it's far easier if you think of it like, the cost of anything, where if you finance something, you're typically thinking about it in terms of what is the present day cost, because those longer term scenarios, if you buy a car, if you buy a house, if you buy anything that typically requires interest rates. They don't sell it to you, and you don't think about it in terms of the total cost of the life of the financing. You think about it of the present day value.
Do you look at the tax itself as something that's going to be on the citizens of Davidson County for the foreseeable future? In other words, it doesn't terminate, right, once the project is finished?
It doesn't auto-terminate. Once all of the debt required for the build-out is completed, Metro Council can end it with a resolution.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, you've obviously made the case, and I appreciate the back and forth. I'm not going to badger you on the matter, but I mean, it is what it is, and I know that you want to do you believe that it will benefit for those that aren't riding the bus? And obviously, it's going to be a benefit for those who already do.
Right.
I would expect.
Yep.
You have transit hubs available. Is there any concern about making space available for those transit hubs? I've heard talk about eminent domain.
We're not seriously evaluating that. In most cases, for instance, in the Rip Patton North Nashville Transit Center, we had a private property owner who wanted to participate in that project. That worked out well. Some of the other sites are places like the Global Mall, which we already own. It's public land. There's another south of Broadway site in downtown that we already own, public land. We would anticipate having one on the East Bank, public land. They haven't all been site identified. To me, November 6th becomes the start of the next conversation if this is successful. But we do know that when we get these open, like the one at Hillsborough High School, public land, happened as a part of the renovation of Hillsborough High School, they immediately start to attract a different type of use. And so recently, Nora Buikstra, the manager of the mall at Green Hills, ensured that her entire workforce had access to transit. They hit a 90% utilization rate when that became an employer-based benefit.
Away from the transit tax, which obviously early voting's ongoing, and I know you support it and want people to vote for it. We've had a couple of instances of fairly high-profile issues involving crime. I mean, sure. the sad TSU event that sullied the homecoming events of TSU on Jefferson Street. We had this other situation in Antioch with the parks. I mean, just speak to that and talk to us about what your office does in conjunction with the Metro Nashville Police Department to try to make Nashvillians safe.
Yeah, these were both tragic incidents. What Chief Drake has advised us, and I think said multiple times in public, is in almost all cases where you see this type of violent crime, typically involving a gun, sometimes involving fights or other related incidents where something becomes violent, the people engaged in that activity are known to one another. The TSU incident is an example of that. In very rare circumstances, like the situation on the Greenway, it's awful, it's tragic, it's horrific, but Metro Nashville Police Department uses an incredible system and network of resources, including their manpower, the intelligence capabilities they have, receiving information. They got some very, very helpful footage from a witness there. They often get that kind of opportunity. We work very closely with them. I had somebody reach out to me who was a personal contact with some additional information. We always try to make those connections as quickly as possible when they're actively involved in an investigation. For Nashvillians, I hope everybody understands that Metro Nashville Police Department in all of these incidents captured suspects within hours with a great deal of credible information. Meanwhile, we've got in front of council technology improvement that MMPD has requested. That's a program called Fusus that would allow business owners to share footage more efficiently with law enforcement when there are episodes of criminal activity, whether it's property crimes or violent crime. The thing to know here is that if you are intent on participating in a serious crime in Nashville, the Metro Nashville Police Department is very, very likely to apprehend you.
I thought about our conversation today after we heard about this tragic situation on the Greenway, and I thought about asking you regarding, several people have wanted me to ask you about license plate readers and that level of technology that could very well have assisted in the effort by the Metro Nashville Police Department. Thankfully, they were able to capture him without that technology. Where are we on that technology?
Still happening. We had kind of a series of things happen. If you and your listeners paid attention last year, we did have a kind of a technicality that hung up the FUSIS program. That one's now back in front of the Metro Council. That will go to a public hearing in a couple meetings, and then hopefully we'll be able to re-enable that technology for the police department. We worked with police department after a series of community meetings we participated in and some meetings in-house that we participated in to get a little more feedback from concerned organizations, communities, and we've got a policy update that we expect to run. Fingers crossed we can get this done before the end of the year, and then we will look to proceed with it. So it is still on track. Our office is still working closely with MMPD to make sure we get a good, responsible implementation, and it will have to go back before the Metro Council.
And all of these issues that we discuss are very serious issues, whether it's crime or the future of transit in the city of Nashville. I want to end with something that's a little happier. I'm looking, man, we're coming out of the ground over on the East Bank.
It's pretty exciting. I was just by there in East Nashville earlier today. We have worked very closely and carefully with the Titans. They're on track. You may know this. We got bipartisan state legislation done to help us create an East Bank Development Authority. State is making some appointments. Metro Council is making some appointments. We will have some appointments. It will be an ongoing partnership to make sure that as the Titans get that stadium constructed by 2027, we will be redeveloping the 100+ acres.
And did I hear it right that the property that is known as the scrapyard is going up for auction too?
It is going up for auction. So you'll have River North with Oracle being one of the key investors there, the footprint around the stadium on the East Bank. And then possibly
and God bless the people that have owned that property. I mean, I don't besmirch them and their business, but it's time that we put something else there.
I think, right.
You know what I'm saying?
The reason
it's
right going up for auction is I think that this is a case where the market is indicating, yes, there may be higher and better uses for this particular part of our riverfront.
Freddie, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for always being willing to answer the tough questions and to present your case to the people of Nashville. I do appreciate that about you.
Matt, great to be with you. Make sure regardless of who you're choosing to vote for, how you're choosing to vote on local items, you can always get in touch with the Davidson County Election Commission. Early voting is underway. Go visit vote.nashville.gov for more.
There's Freddie O'Connell, Mayor of Nashville. Good to spend about 30 minutes with us. It's 58 after the hour. Got to take a time out. We'll be back.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. And right now, we have learned the identity of the person killed in the officer-involved shooting in Murfreesboro overnight. It shut down I-24 for a few hours. 71-year-old Robert Michael Wemmer is the name that law enforcement has provided. Rutherford County Sheriff's Office says deputies were conducting a traffic stop of a wanted suspect on I-24 near Joe B. Jackson at 1:40 this morning when shots were fired and the suspect was critically wounded. Paramedics rendered aid at the scene, but Wemmer died at the hospital. Metro Police say a student had a gun at Antioch High School yesterday. An SRO and school administrators learned about it over social media. They arrested the 16-year-old upon arrival. Police say the gun was in the kid's pants. He's now charged in juvenile court with juvenile handgun possession and carrying a gun on school property. And that massive recall, prompted by listeria concerns among 10 million pounds of pre-cooked meat, is affected in some of the most popular grocery stores across the U.S. The new list includes Walmart, Publix, Target, Aldi, Amazon, Trader Joe's, and more. We're talking about sandwiches, wraps, and salads as the primary prepared foods affected by the recall. Frozen meals containing chicken products ranging from pastas and burritos to bowls and family meals, too. The meat in question is produced by Bruce Pack and was distributed nationwide. The USDA continuing to update the list of affected products and suggests checking back at fsis.gov frequently. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
All right, indeed. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I've cleaned out the phone line, so if you want to comment on our conversation with Mayor Freddie O'Connell, now's the time to do it. 9 minutes after 1 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. On Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the mayor of the city of Nashville offered his defense of the transit tax that is scheduled to be voted on, well, early voting has started, so those in Davidson County that are voting will be voting yay or nay on the transit tax. If you have any further questions about it, I'm happy to answer those questions. The reason that Freddie and I got a little bit sideways, and look, I appreciate him coming on. I appreciate him answering questions by me. He knows I'm not a fan of the transit tax. I don't live in Davidson County, so I don't get a vote on the matter. You do, and if you do, you need to know the facts. And the facts are that it's going to cost much more than $3.1 billion. And everyone knows it. And it has been my experience that if you're trying to, nobody likes taxes, okay? Nobody wants to have to pay taxes, but we want stuff that taxes ultimately pay for. We just want to make sure that the stuff that government is initiating that taxes will go to pay for are worthwhile. We want to make sure that they're worthwhile. And we want to make sure that we're getting our money's worth, and we want to make sure we know what it costs. It has been my experience. I'm not coming after the guy. Frankly, Freddie is nice enough. We're going to disagree on some of these matters, but it has been my experience, if the people you're trying to reach to convince to vote your way are suspicious of the manner that you're trying to sell it, you are creating an additional hill to climb. And right now, the people that are selling this transit tax are doing so by claiming that it's a $3.1 billion tax. And it is not. It is more like $6.9 billion. Are the figures that I have seen that I trust in terms of servicing the debt. So I think you're already starting from a deficit if you're trying to sell a $3.1 billion proposal that's actually a $6.9 billion proposal. And oh, by the way, the money never goes away. So even after there is no sunset on this tax, so even after they pay for the projects, I could get into whether or not the projects are worthwhile. I could get into whether or not I think we're going to increase bus ridership or whether it is a worthy task to spend billions of dollars on. And that's fine. We can do that too. But even if I agreed that it was a necessity, then why would this, if it is specifically dedicated to the purpose of building out bus lanes, building out transit center hubs, building out sidewalks, and making smarter our traffic lights in the city, if that is the specific purpose of the money that is being collected, why not sunset it? Well, I mean, obviously, governments never sunset taxes, or very, very rarely do they sunset taxes because once they get your money, they want to keep your money. And the expectation is that this will be an ongoing tax to be used for whatever purpose the city of Nashville wants to use it for, above and beyond this other deal. Secondarily, I believe that it is a waste of money. People ride the bus because they have to, not because they want to. And while I understand a major city like Nashville should provide mass transit, I do not believe that we're getting a bang for our buck given the specifics of this proposal. I just don't. I don't think you're going to see an appreciable increase in ridership. And I don't think you're going to see a decrease in the amount of cars on our roads, which is the primary thing that would lessen traffic congestion, right? But I do appreciate Freddie answering the call, and I appreciate him answering the questions. Ricky is in Watertown with a thought on all of this. Hello, Ricky. Glad you called.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, Ricky. I hope you are.
Oh, yeah. Still kicked.
Well, I'm glad of that, Ricky.
I'll tell you, just like Tonto would tell the Lone Ranger. Kemosabe, Democrats speak for forked tongue. That's all I got to say.
Well, Ricky, I'm glad you said it. Reminds me of an old joke that I heard. Tonto and the Lone Ranger riding on the range. Tonto and the Lone Ranger riding on the range. And they get up on a crest of a hill, and right on the other side, on another crest, out there in the distance, they see 1,000 Indians. 1,000 Indians. It's a face-off. And Tonto looks at, the Lone Ranger looks at Tonto and says, "We're in a lot of trouble here, Tonto." And Tonto says, "What's this wee crap, white man?" Larry's next in Clarksville. Hey, Larry.
Man, I got to stop laughing before I can even talk.
A good one, isn't it?
That was hilarious.
This is a wee crap, white man.
Yeah. You got a mouse in your pocket.
That's right.
Oh my God! Darn you, Matt.
Sorry about that, Larry. Larry, what'd you think about Mayor Freddie O'Connell coming in? Speaking of squirrels.
Well, I'm just glad I didn't have you on speaker, and you didn't say squirrel. So, I appreciate him coming in. I really do, because at least he has some C.O. Jones, or that's what Uncle Phil used to call him.
Yeah, I do. I know.
But the reason the people don't trust these tax increases started out with Bill Boner. And I know this is way before your time, but Nashvillians will know who Bill Boner is. He used to be the mayor of Nashville. He passed this big tax increase to synchronize all of the stoplights in Nashville to improve all this traffic. They raised all this money, and it never got put in.
See,
I'm
having a difficult time understanding what's going to cost. I mean, even if I used their figure of 3.1, but I mean, after the servicing of the debt at 6.9, but let's use the $3.1 billion figure. What in the hell is costing $3.1 billion that we're doing?
Well, and then you got Mayor Munchin come in and raises the property taxes. And, Matt, when I left Nastyville, my property taxes in Westmead were $6,500 a year.
Well, I think, and I didn't get to it because we were running desperately short on time, Larry, and thanks for the call. Tell that joke around. I appreciate you, buddy. Freddie O'Connell wrote an op-ed piece for the Tennessean. And at the end of that op-ed piece, I think we kind of pulled the curtain back on what we're trying to accomplish here. This is Freddie O'Connell writing from the Tennessean. Because we're being Nashville, we're only one of 4 of America's top 50 cities that doesn't have a dedicated funding for transportation and infrastructure, according to Think Tennessee. We've effectively been paying to build better ways to move to Austin, Charlotte, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Denver. I'm ready to invest, writes Freddie, in safer streets and cheaper, easier ways to move around Nashville and to bring $1 billion of our taxpayer money home from D.C. And I think this is getting it to where the goats can graze on it. If they get this half-a-cent sales tax passed in the city of Nashville, they can then apply for federal grants, which will have a lot of federal regulations involved in them. But it will bring money, fake money, I should add, from Washington, D.C. back home to Nashville. If that seems good for you, okay. But that's not a way to run a railroad, and it's not a way to sustain a city, in my opinion. Marie is next in Nashville. Hello, Marie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Love you. Love your show. You know, Matt, when are we in this city of Nashville, when are people going to wake up and get a Republican in office here? This is ludicrous. The wasteful money. The city is dangerous as can be. These Democrats, liberals, are running this city just like Los Angeles, like Denver, like, San Francisco. And, we're going to be next. We need to get these Democrats out. Freddie comes in today, and I appreciate him coming and answer the questions, but my gosh, the Democrats spend, and you're right, Matt. We need different roads. We need side roads, different roads to be able to get around. We can't just have the main, thoroughfare to get through. We need roads. We need traffic. This is a problem. I sit an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back, 3 hours a day. I get on the road at 5:30 in the morning, and it's packed already. And I'm coming from Hendersonville into Nashville to be able to, make a living. And I do make a good living, but I have to, 3 hours of my life every day away from my family, and it's hard. So when are just people going to wake up and get these Democrats out of this city and running it, because they're running it into the ground? And you're right, he's not honest with the figures. Democrats have never been honest with the figures. They're used to lying, and they get away with it. And that's all I just don't.
And well, I'm glad, Marie. Thank you. I'm glad you called. I mean, I guess we just had an election 1 year ago, and Alice Rowley was the Republican candidate. I think I'm right in when I say this. I don't believe you actually declare yourself a Democrat or a Republican when you're running for mayor. So, but we all know, right? I mean, we know that Alice was the more conservative voice in that election cycle, and that Freddie was more of a middle-of-the-road, moderate, squishy liberal, whatnot. So we know the answer to the question. Speaking of questions, y'all like my question about whether or not he'd vote for Trump? I mean, if Freddie had encouraged people to vote for Trump, I would have gone all in on his transit tax proposal. Anyway, it takes an awakening, the likes of which perhaps we've never seen. Perhaps it takes something along the lines of Dallas. Wasn't it Dallas that the mayor of that city renounced his Democrat affiliation and became a Republican? Because he said that the Democrats had just abandoned him and had left the city behind, and he felt like more conservative governance was in order. I think that was the city of Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. 21 after the hour, we'll get continued response from you. Trey Hargett, the Secretary of State, coming up at 1:35 to talk about early voting in the state of Tennessee and what the deal is. We'll ask him primarily about East Tennessee and what they are doing to make sure that everyone that wants to cast a ballot is able to cast a ballot in East Tennessee, where some of the devastation from Hurricane Helene is ongoing. That is upcoming in about 15 minutes. 21 after the hour on Super Talk. Do you know you're funding America's future? And it's not the future that you want for you or your kids. Did you know that most major credit cards funnel millions of dollars into liberal causes, woke causes, and woke candidates, and they hope that you won't notice? Well, it's time to take a stand and get the woke out of your wallet. Coin is a conservative credit card, the conservative's credit card. You earn cash back while advancing a conservative future with Coin. Apply now at coin.com. Don't worry, I'll spell it for you. It's spelled a little different. Now, it's pronounced coin, but it's spelled COIGN.com. That's coin.com, COIGN.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. For the entire month of October, our friends at Craft Body Scan are offering an incredible deal celebrating 7 wonderful years, helping people take control of their health. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and to celebrate their anniversary, we are giving you the gift, $700 off their full body scan. It's an amazing opportunity, not just for huge savings, but to see your health more clearly. A full body scan can help you spot potential health risk long before it becomes serious. It's fast, it's non-invasive, it scans key areas of your body. I've done it, and I absolutely encourage you to do it as well. It scans your chest, your stomach area, your pelvis. By the way, they say on the stomach area it's the abdomen, and I've never been able to say that word, so I say stomach area. Evaluating heart and lung health, bone density, and much, much more. So when you call, tell them Matt Murphy can't pronounce abdomen, but he can tell you to go to craftbodyscan.com. That's craftbodyscan.com, or call 615-436-1000. $700 off this life-changing scan. 615-436-1000 for Craft Body Scan.
Mayor Freddie O'Connell defends not including the service on the debt. on the price tag for the Choose How You Move transit plan. Voters are deciding. Coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You can also, if you missed that, a number of you have indicated that you missed some or all of the interview. We will be podcasting that right as the show concludes at 3 o'clock today. You can find it at 997WTN.com. Our podcast will be up and running in that. In that way, you can also hit us up on YouTube and Facebook and the other places where you find Super Talk TV, and we'll be up and running in that regard as well. 615-737-9986. Many of you go into the polls and making a decision on this transit tax. A lot of you saying, heck no, but I just wonder if this thing has a chance of passing. And if it does, the Tennessean was doing their part. They were coming out with, it's only going to cost you. That's what they love to do on these sales taxes. A family of 4 that spends $400 a month, it's only going to cost them $5.67 a month, and, whatever. Bottom line is this. Is it an appropriate expenditure of our money? Have they exhausted all other opportunity to engage? Well, first and foremost, is the project worthwhile? If the project is worthwhile, can they not figure out a way to pay for it without asking for more of our money? And do we believe that they're being on the up and up with regard to the project and exactly what it will do and how much it will cost? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself and answer before you go to the polls and decide how to vote. And I encourage you to do that. Tyler is next in Nash. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Pretty good, Tyler. Hope you are.
Good. Hey, it's good to talk to you again. I talked to you at the Love Our City concert a few times.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. It was good to meet you out there, Tyler.
You as well. Hey, my theory on Freddie O'Connell is not very good. I used to work for a trans entertainment company downtown, the pedal wagons and party wagons and all that. And, he made it real hard for any of us to make a living because you had to have CDLs to drive the tractors, and you had to get all these permits, and you had to do all this and that and other. And he's trying to shut that entertainment business down. But that's like an $80 million a year business, and it's a way to get taxes in, and it's a safe form of entertainment for downtown. But like any other Democrat, why would we want people to have fun? Why would we want people to do things safely? And let's pull money from other people when we can do it right here in our city with people coming to visit our city.
I have and for me, it's a little, I'm a simple man, right? And I just ask simple questions and expect simple answers. And Tyler, thank you for the call. I got to scoot to the news here in a second. But I appreciate your call, and I appreciate meeting you last Friday at Charlie Daniels Park in Mount Juliet. So I'm having a difficult time understanding exactly what's costing so much money. Bus lanes, bus service. It feels to me like this is a thing that is designed to get more taxes on the books for long-term expenses. I mean, sidewalks, they already do sidewalks. Do we have a sidewalk problem in Nashville? I mean, maybe we do. Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe what we are currently constructing with the current budget available isn't enough. Maybe we need another 84 miles or whatever it is. Maybe we need more bus service. Maybe the people demand it. Maybe the people will ride the bus if it's better equipped and better available. I doubt it. It's 30 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top story. I'm seeing a problem on I-24 westbound. It's going to be right after Briley Parkway, actually right before you get to Briley Parkway. The two right lanes are blocked by debris. So is the right shoulder. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, polling places are open for early voting, and they will be through October 31st. And here in Nashville, voters will decide whether to impose a sales tax increase for transportation improvements. Mayor Freddie O'Connell defends not including the service on the debt by claiming the Choose How You Move plan will cost taxpayers $3.1 billion instead of an estimated $6.9 billion. Here's an exchange between the mayor and WTN's Matt Murphy.
I mean, do you think it benefits you to have a lower figure? Do you think it benefits you, like it makes it more appealing to people who are going and voting for it?
I think it's far easier if you think of it like, the cost of anything, where if you finance something, you're typically thinking about it in terms of what is the present day cost, because those longer term scenarios, if you buy a car, if you buy a house, if you buy anything that typically requires interest rates.
O'Connell says the legal language under the Improve Act requires that $3.1 billion cost be put on the ballot. Mayor O'Connell says policy changes have been made in hopes of returning a proposal for license plate reader cameras before the Metro Council to consider.
Fingers crossed we can get this done before the end of the year, and then we will look to proceed with it.
Police Chief John Drake reiterated the need for LPR cameras in Nashville after the arrest of Paul Park, the suspect charged with criminal homicide in the attack and shooting death of jogger Alyssa Lokitz late Monday afternoon on the Antioch Greenway. And we've learned the identity of the person killed in the officer-involved shooting in Murfreesboro overnight. Authorities say it was 71-year-old Robert Michael Wemmer. Rutherford County Sheriff's Office says deputies were conducting a traffic stop of a wanted suspect on I-24 near Joe B. Jackson at 1:40 this morning when shots were fired and the suspect was critically wounded. Paramedics rendered aid at the scene, but Wemmer, they say, died at the hospital. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Men of Valor is a wonderful organization. I'm so proud to be associated with the people of Men of Valor, and I love what they do for our community. You know, it is one thing to be tough on crime, and I take a tough on crime approach, and frankly, most of the folks at Men of Valor do as well. They believe that if you commit crime against the general population in the state of Tennessee, then you need to serve a punishment, and oftentimes that punishment involves prison. But what type of men are coming out of prison? 90% of the men that go in are coming out. What type of guys are we getting? Are we getting people that believe in getting their lives together and becoming productive members of society? Or are we getting recidivists, people that fall back into a life of crime and ultimately fall back into prison, costing the taxpayers even more money? The power of God and the power of God's people is enormous. It's immeasurable. And through Men of Valor, we can create a dynamic by which individuals see a better way. They see a faith-based way to get a job, to become productive members of society, to raise a family in a way that believes in the rule of law and shies away from a life of crime. That's what it's all about at Men of Valor. I want you to go to movministry.com and see how you can be a partner. In addition to donations, you can offer job partnership or Bible study. You can offer your services on their campus for reentry. movministry.com. That's movministry.com. Is it true that Kamala Harris did not register to vote until she was 29? I just read that. I need to do a little fact check on that.
She had a lot of trouble getting an ID and wasn't able to do it.
Oh, there you go. That's probably the case. That would make a lot of sense. By the way, if you're holding to offer a thought on our interview with the mayor, Freddie O'Connell joining us for 30 good minutes in the 12 o'clock hour, the Libertarian lunchtime hour, then please hang in there. We'll get to you in just a moment. At 39 after the hour on the Matt Murphy hotline, it is our pleasure to welcome the Secretary of State of the state of Tennessee, Trey Hargett, to the show to talk about early voting and to give you the do's and the don'ts. Hello, Trey. How are you, sir?
Fine, Matt. Hey, thank you for that awesome intro music. I don't normally get that.
Come on, man. It's that's some walk-up music for you, right?
It is. I'm surprised you had me back on after my last controversial visit where I told everybody how much I hated Thin Mints.
Forgot about
your switchboard blew up. My emails, people started. I went viral for that.
I know. I mean, how many times did you get called a communist after that?
Oh man. Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So,
that's rough
I'm still
stuff.
Team Tag Along. Though.
Listen, Trey Hargett has never shied away from the more controversial issues, like declaring what is good and bad when it comes to Girl Scout cookies. Well, there's nothing controversial about this, Trey. It's first day of early voting. Look, if I could create a different type of system, maybe I would. But the system is what it is, and we have early voting in the state of Tennessee. Tell us all the do's and the don'ts and everything we need to know about it.
Well, absolutely. As you know, early voting started today. We're seeing strong turnout across the state. We're excited about that. You never know what could happen on Election Day. And so I encourage people, if you've got your mind made up, go ahead and get your ballot cast, do your research, and be an educated consumer with your vote. So October 16th through 31st is early voting. And, of course, Election Day is going to be November 5th.
Let me. I want to get into how to do it and everything that you need to make sure that you have when you go to the polls to vote. But I want to ask you about East Tennessee. I mean, obviously, our hearts and prayers go out to those affected by the storms. We're still picking up the pieces. North Carolina is getting a lot of attention, as it should. Georgia is getting a lot of attention. East Tennessee is getting a lot of attention. Tell me what the process is for you, Trey, in working with some of those county officials, some of our state officials, to make sure that everyone that wants to cast a ballot in those affected areas is able to do so.
Well, I love how you said that. We're working hard to make sure that every Tennessee voter that wants to vote can vote. We have personally visited with every election administrator in those affected counties, and working to make sure they have a plan for their respective county, whether it's moving a precinct, like in Carter County, they have 2 precincts that are gone. They had to move polling sites. So they've done that successfully. When you get in Johnson County, they've got 1 polling site that's going to be pretty hard to get to, and we're monitoring that situation, trying to determine, could they have to move that election day site, or are people who usually have a 5 to 10 minute drive to go vote now to be faced with a 30-minute drive to go vote? And probably one of the things that I was most concerned about was poll workers whose, lives and property have been affected, and they might decide not to work, and completely understandably so. And then you hear stories like a lady in Greene County whose house was destroyed, lost everything. She called the election commission, and they just knew she was calling them to say, hey, I've got to take care of business. I'm not going to be able to work. And instead she was calling and said, hey, make sure you still got me on the schedule for early voting. So we're hearing stories like that from everywhere about poll workers who are doubling down and recommitting their efforts to making sure their fellow Tennesseans have the opportunity to vote. So, we play a role in helping organize that, but really, I tell you, who gets a lion's share of credit is these local election administrators, their poll workers, their election commissions, because they are in that community and living it day in and day out, and they're the ones who are really making sure that Tennesseans have that opportunity to vote.
Trey, I want to go over a couple of logistical questions with you, and some of them may seem fairly simplistic to many in our audience, but I want to make sure everyone has this information. So early voting starts today. Voter registration has closed. Is that correct?
That's correct. Voter registration closes 30 days for an election. It fell on a Saturday this year, so it was 28 days for the election. You cannot register to vote at this point.
So you have to be registered to vote in order to exercise your rights. We encourage you to get registered, and if you have not by now, then there's next time around, and God bless you. You've got to do it before the 30-day window. What about absentee voting, Trey?
So you still have until October 29th to request an absentee ballot. But I will tell you, if you want an absentee ballot, you know you're not going to be able to access early voting or election day voting. You need to get that request in now. Get it to your local election commission because they've got to have time to process that. They've got to have time to get it back to you in the mail, and then you've got to have time to fill it out and get it back to the election commission by close of polls on election day. So, you can't wait till I don't think you should wait till October 29th to request it, then hope that the election commission turns around and processes that same day, gets it back to you 2 or 3 days later, and then hope that the United States Postal Service gets it back to the election commission. So get it done now.
And there are a lot of different reasons why someone is eligible to vote absentee, but I should note, and I think I'm right in this, Trey, that you can't vote absentee just because you want to. You have to fall under a certain category, and there are any number of categories. I assume these things are on your website, right?
Yeah, they are. There's plenty of categories. And typically when you see somebody voting absentee, it's because they are homebound, that they're sick, disabled, hospitalized, something like that. Some people, especially in the military, they're traveling. They're not going to be back here. In fact, I know someone in my family who was going to be abroad. They hurried up, got their absentee ballot request form in, and was able to vote successfully that way. But in Tennessee, absentee voting is really not prevalent. I mean, in a presidential election year, we are typically about 2.5% absentee voting. And that's kind of the high watermark typically. During the 2020 election, it did spike to 7%. But in Tennessee, we really believe in in-person voting. People just don't vote absentee like they do in some other places.
No, I love it, and I believe in it as well. I like to vote in person if at all possible. And finally, I mean, obviously, you and I know this, but just to reiterate to maybe some who are new to the state, what do you need to bring to the polls with you when you go to vote, Trey?
Thank you for asking that. You need to bring a state or federally issued ID, and it can be a driver's license, military ID, passport. If you've been a state or federal employee, you can use that as well. It doesn't even have to be current. I mean, if you've got an old driver's license, passport, military ID in your junk drawer somewhere in the house, you can use that to comply with the photo ID law.
Well, Trey, anything else we need to know about this process? I mean, I'm excited that it's starting. You know what? I like to say that, if I were king of the world, maybe the voting process would go a little bit differently, but I'm not, and this is the process that we have, so I want to embrace it. I want to encourage people to, like you said, I think you said it very well, that if you are convicted, if you know where you stand on the presidential race or the U.S. Senate race or whatever it might be in your local community, go ahead and get your vote in. Anything else we need to know, Trey?
Last thing I would mention to you is we have an app called GoVoteTN. It's also on the website at govotetn.gov. And you can type in your name, your address, and you can find out where your nearest early voting site is, what hours of operation are. You can find out where your election day precinct is, hours of operation. And the thing I think is the coolest thing on there, you can actually look at your sample ballot that is unique to your address, and that way do all your final research so that when you walk into the polls, it's not the first time you've ever seen that ballot. You can be a more prepared voter.
By the way, I'm glad you brought this up because I am impressed with your app. I mean, and I'm not saying this to suck up to you, Trey, because I'm doing it at the end of the interview as opposed to the beginning.
You never have sucked up to me, Matt, so I start now.
Right, but I mean, this app, and it is impressive because it is unique to the individual. You put in your information, it'll tell you exactly it'll tell you who your elected officials are. So if you, for whatever reason, aren't entirely sure who your committee persons are when it comes to executive committee or who, your circuit court judge is, I mean, whatever the elected position might be in your area, it will tell you that elected position. And then, like you say, it will alert you to what the ballot exactly will look like so you don't have to go in blind on that.
That's it, right. One of the things I think that creates longer lines is whenever people go into the polls and are not prepared. And they're seeing that ballot for the first time and then trying to make that decision on the fly. That decision, frankly, I think should be made before you ever get to the polls.
Hey,
and then be prepared so when you go in, you know who you're voting for.
And final thought, and it just occurred to me, is there any restriction or is there any advice that you would give in terms of, I know, let me just give you an example. I mean, Trump supporters love to wear their Trump hats. They love to wear their fight
Yep.
shirts. Are there any restrictions as to what individuals need to wear at the polls in terms of quote-unquote campaigning?
Yeah, that's a great question, too, and stoked a little controversy, as you're probably aware, back during the August election, where somebody wore a shirt in that says, loves Jesus and America, too, which, heaven help us if that's actually a political slogan. We could all do a little bit better by living by that. But, you can't wear campaign paraphernalia into the polling place. If you're wearing I'll throw it out there, something that says "Make America Great Again." I mean, that's a campaign slogan, and that would be true of the other party too. If there's a campaign slogan that you can find on the Tennessee Democrat Party website, and they're selling shirts and bumper stickers or what have you, you can't wear that in there. But if you're wearing a shirt that says I'm pro-life or pro-choice, that's not a campaign statement of some sort.
Right.
So
and it's going to be a judgment call for the officials on the scene in some circumstances, and best practices is to just not wear it to the polls, and you don't have to worry about it.
That's right. I mean, I thought there was a lady who was going to beat me up in Bradley County a couple of years ago. She was wearing, something for one of the presidential candidates back in 2020, and I told her, I said, you can't wear that in here. And I literally thought she was going to take me out, over it. I mean, I think she was going to tell me to step outside so we could finish this. And I had to tell her, I said, you're not going to be able to wear that. You can't wear that inside the 100-foot boundary. And so I've upset some people over the years, but, the 100-foot boundary is there. It's supposed to be a campaign-free zone. And I guarantee you we're going to have, in the millions of people that vote during this upcoming election, we're going to have one or two people who either don't know or they're just going to try and see what they can get away with.
What about tattoos, Trey?
Well, I would say you need to cover it up.
I just had somebody on the text line ask the Secretary of State about tattoos. I was like, well, these are the tough questions that you get from the Murphy Show.
Not even tastefully done, just to say no.
Trey, thank you so much for what you do as Secretary of State. We hope we have a nice, easy election process over the course of the next month or so, and we look forward to the next conversation, my friend.
Thanks, man. I'm sure we'll talk between now and Election Day. Thank you.
All right. Take care. There's Trey Hargett. He's a good guy. I like Trey a lot. Secretary of State joining us, talking about East Tennessee and their election process. He says everything's going well over there. And look, I know that it upsets people that you can't wear your stuff to the polling place when you go and cast your ballot for Donald Trump or whoever you might be voting for. But that's just designed to prevent voter intimidation and the like.
He said something pretty profound that I think is worth repeating. That doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, everybody's got a junk drawer.
It's true. I thought for a second he said drunk drawer, which I have one of those too.
Well, yeah, I can imagine so.
But he said junk drawer. And yes, you can wear your American flags, as Trey mentioned, as long as it's not a campaign slogan or something involving the campaign of a particular candidate, you should be just fine. He actually said, pro-life, pro-choice are examples of political statements that are not necessarily campaign issues. So I promise you this, I don't think anybody across the state of Tennessee is necessarily looking for that confrontation or that conversation. But if you wear, political paraphernalia, you're probably going to have it when you go to the polls. 52 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. At the Dr. Gill Center, they've been helping people get back on track with a pain-free lifestyle without having to rely on pills or needles or surgery for a long time. Well over 30 years, Dr. Gill brought spinal decompression to Middle Tennessee well over 30 years ago. Dr. Gill has brought other advancements in the technology like a Class 5 laser system, the red light therapy system, all designed to reduce inflammation in the body, to reduce pain, to reduce swelling, and to accelerate healing. That's what it's all about, right? Is getting you right through the natural process and doing it in a way that's going to benefit you and doesn't have you relying on pills or needles to block the pain. I know I, as a patient of the Dr. Gill Center, heartily recommend him. I believe in the way that he goes about his business. He has a team approach, so he has Dr. Wendy and Dr. Dominic and Dr. V and the rest of his chiropractic care physicians there on site, ready and willing and able to help you. Make the call today and schedule an appointment at 615-882-4838. 882-4838. Live a pain-free life without having to pop pills with the Dr. Gill Center.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Checking traffic. Looks like we've got a crash. That is Old Hickory Boulevard at Old Lebanon Dirt Road. That is reported by police. Now 24 westbound, just popping up here at Briley Parkway South. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Metro Police Chief John Drake says the arrest of a man after the attack and murder of a jogger in Antioch Monday evening highlights the need for license plate reader cameras. Drake says it could have happened faster. Mayor Freddie O'Connell telling WTN's Matt Murphy Show today he agrees with Chief Drake.
Our office is still working closely with MMPD to make sure we get a good, responsible implementation, and it will have to go back before the Metro Council.
O'Connell says a new proposal could be submitted by the end of the year. Meanwhile, 29-year-old Paul Park arrested after the attack and murder of jogger Alyssa Lokitz with the help of someone's dash cam. His first court appearance is scheduled for tomorrow. TBI is handling the investigation of the deadly officer-involved shooting that shut down I-24 in Murfreesboro overnight. Rutherford County Sheriff's deputies say they learned the driver of a van they pulled over had an outstanding sexual assault warrant out of Ohio. Deputies say 71-year-old Robert Michael Wemmer refused to respond to commands. They used a stun gun on him. They say he grabbed a handgun and fired at least one time at deputies who returned fire, striking Wemmer, who later died at the hospital. Metro Police says a student is in trouble for having a gun at Antioch High School. An SRO and school administrators say they learned about it over social media. They arrested the 16-year-old student upon arrival yesterday. Police say the gun was in the kid's pants. He's charged in juvenile court with juvenile handgun possession and carrying a gun on school property. And better be on your guard at the grocery store. Franklin Police Officer Ryan Howell says police are investigating more reports from people who realize their wallet is missing when they get to the checkout.
Zip up your purse, buckle your purse, because the problem is we tend to leave our purses open because we're using it, right? Zip it, lock it, make sure that it's completely secure.
Yeah, it's from a video posted to X. He said the thieves are out for your cash and any credit cards they can grab. Nearly 24 hours after warnings first went out, an exotic cat on the loose in Chicago's northwest suburbs has been caught. Here's Dave Packer.
A bit of the wild arriving in the Chicago suburb of Hoffman Estates and right in Jan Hoffman Rau's backyard.
The moment I saw it, I thought to myself, I have no idea what that is. It's not normal.
Definitely not for Illinois. What she was seeing out her back door was a caracal, a large endangered cat found in parts of Asia and Africa. Took police a couple of hours to finally corner and capture the cat. No word on where it came from, but it's now going to an animal sanctuary in Wisconsin.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, probably the number one question I get from my listeners, how do I get into the conservative fight? How can I engage? Well, let me tell you one way. It's critical to know where your money is being spent, where your dollars are going, whether you're doing business at a brick and mortar business or with your credit cards. I mean, if you have credit cards, did you know that some of your credit cards are funneling millions of dollars to the left? I mean, unbeknownst to you, you pay them an interest rate to utilize the credit card, and then they spend that money on woke policies and woke programs. But now you have a choice. Coin is that choice. Coin is America's conservative credit card. You earn cash back while fighting the liberal agenda. Apply now at coin.com. That's COIGN.com. It's pronounced a coin. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. All right, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll get to more of your telephone calls coming up in just a moment as we continue the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day until 3 o'clock this afternoon. We hand off to the drive at that time. Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom gathering headlines, busily making sure that you know everything that's going on in your world, in your state, in your community. Bell K's making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. And I'm your humble host. My name is Matt Murphy, and I'm a loudmouth with a microphone, and I like talking with you. We'll talk with you directly coming up in just a moment. So we turn our attention to today and tonight. A lot of anticipation over this interview that's happening later on with Bret Baier and Fox News. And many of you are quick to dismiss Bret Baier and Fox News. And I understand that you're frustrated with Fox. Many of you. I don't watch a lot of Fox anymore. I watch a little Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters is becoming more and more like Bill O'Reilly as the days and weeks and months and years go on. And I know that he was a producer. He cut his teeth, I think, as the executive producer of the O'Reilly Show for a time. Before,
boy, you get yelled at in that job.
Man, oh, man, I'll tell you what. O'Reilly yells at his people more than I yell at you.
Yes.
And that's a lot.
Oh, God, by a long shot.
And that's a lot. But when O'Reilly was on, I always liked O'Reilly. Because he was smart. I didn't always agree with him, but I don't have to always agree with you. You don't have to always agree with me. Why do we decide our friendships or who we like or who we respect based on agreement? I mean, I don't think that's any way to run a railroad myself. But I always enjoyed O'Reilly. I thought he was entertaining, and I thought he was thought-provoking. He made me think about the issues that mattered to me, especially if I disagreed with him on those issues. So I enjoyed watching O'Reilly back in the day. I enjoyed Hannity when Hannity was on with Combs, and then Hannity was no longer on with Combs, and I don't really care for Hannity anymore. But I always liked O'Reilly, and obviously I liked Tucker when Tucker was on. Jesse Waters, I appreciate him. I watch Gutfeld for different reasons. I mean, Greg is funny. But other than that, I mean, I really don't go to Fox News for much anymore. However, I think Bret Baier is getting a little bit of a raw deal with many of you, because some are suggesting that Bret's not going to be hard-hitting in terms of his question and answers. Now, it remains to be seen, but I will tell you this. It's tougher than you think to get to all of the questions that he has to get to. And I'm not here to defend the guy, but I'm telling you that I've been in that position, and I was in that position in the 12 o'clock hour. I did not get to half of what I wanted to get to with Freddie O'Connell because we only had a half an hour. I wanted to talk to him about the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. But I thought that had to take a back seat to the transit tax. I wanted to talk to him more about crime. I wanted to talk to him about police officers in our middle schools in Nashville. These are all important issues, but time, tick-tock, you want to give them the opportunity to speak, but at the same time, you've got a lot to get to. Same with Bret Baier. I don't know how much time Kamala Harris is giving Bret Baier. I would think that it's at least 30 minutes. I would hope that it's more like an hour of sit-down time. But I'm excited about the possibility of getting some answers to questions that all of us have, like, where are you on these issues? You were here, now you're there. We know where you were on fracking. We know where you claim to be on fracking now. We know where you were on offshore drilling. We know where you claim to be now. There was a time when you were against a wall. Now you're for a wall. I mean, what's the deal? What's the deal? Hopefully, we'll get a few answers as Brett Baer sits down with Kamala Harris tonight. She sat down with Charlemagne the God, which is his name. I think I referred to him as a podcaster earlier, and several of you have reminded me that he also has a radio show, that's all well and good. I think that radio show's in New York, and it's simulcast or broadcast in a number of different markets. Charlemagne asked, well, there were a couple of points that I thought merited repeating, and I'll get to a few of those clips in just a moment. After I get to your telephone call, Steve is next in Antioch. Hello, Steve. Glad you called. Glad you waited. How are you?
Good, Matt. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
Good. my wife and I just moved here from Connecticut about a year ago, and I just want to call and give you all a bit of a warning here when it comes to this transportation tax. In Connecticut, a bunch of years back, they started what they called the Special Transportation Fund, and they swore up and down it was only going to go toward building roads and bridges. And then over time, they needed money, so they took some out of the STF, and they took a little more out of the STF, and they spent about $900 million to build a busway at a cost of $1,000 an inch until they pretty much depleted that Special Transportation Fund and then came back with their hands out going, well, we got all these roads, all these bridges around the state that are collapsing. We need money to pay for them to get them all fixed. And so then they tried to implement tolls. And there was a big fight in the state of Connecticut to stop the tolls from coming. And I was actually out in the forefront of that. I used to do a radio talk show up in Connecticut. And I actually spoke on the steps of the Capitol against tolls, and we won that fight. But they kept coming back at us for more and more. And when they lost the tolls fight, now they put a mileage tax on tractor trailers. Plus, they put a clean air fee on your registration. They put a greenhouse gas fee on your registration. They put a parks fee on your registration that you got to pay every year when you register your car. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And you got to cut it off right at the beginning. You got to stop it right as it starts, because once they get this tax in, it's 0.5% now, but it could easily go to 1%, 2%, whatever they want. And then they're going to say, well, this isn't enough. Now we got to have other fees over here, and it never stops. And that's one of the main reasons we left the state of Connecticut. It is one of the most expensive states in the country to live in, because of that kind of mindset. Oh, it's just a little bit here. It's just a little bit there. It's only $10. In fact,
it's the way, and it's the way that they sell this sales tax too, right? And I touched on it a minute ago. And Steve, thank you for the call and the insight into how they're doing it up in the Northeast and how we can expect it to happen here if we allow the blue dot to grow in Middle Tennessee. Oh, they sell the sales tax. Oh, for your household, it's only $5 if you spend 180 or whatever it is. I saw there's a editorial out in the Tennessean, and they're pitching the tax, and they're trying to convince you that, it's just a small amount of money. All you have to do is spend a little to get a lot. Well, what are you getting? It doesn't matter how much the money is. Are they spending the money that they are already getting appropriately? Is the project worthwhile? They'll try to sell you on the idea, if it's just $5. Well, but if I'm throwing $5 down a rat hole, that's my money. And $5 here and $5 there, and eventually you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. The project is a $6.9 billion project, and the tax does not sunset after the project's completion. So even to say that this is a capital improvement is a little bit dishonest. Not even a little bit. It's a lot dishonest. Jim is in Mount Juliet with a thought on it all. Hello, Jim. Glad you called.
Afternoon, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for holding.
I love the guy from Connecticut. He's absolutely got it on point.
Oh, he's right on it. Yeah, he's right on it.
Oh, yeah. Since I had to hold for half an hour, I get to have 2 points instead of one.
Oh, come on. I'll give you three. I'll give you three, Jim.
All right. Well, number one will be quick. Then I'll think of what the heck number three is. Number one. I forgot what number one was. Okay, number two, the transit. I am astounded at how, whatever they call themselves now, WeGo or YouGo, or that's a good name, YouGo. Wouldn't that get people on it? How they ignore what would get the most cars off the road the quickest, and that is park and ride. They have a park and ride system right now. It's dismal. It's not well used. And other cities and other states have vastly increased the use of their park and ride. Lots out on the perimeter, big buses coming into the downtown area. They've increased it by incentives to employers. The incentives are passed on to their employees to take the park and ride bus instead of commuting in and paying the historical, the ridiculous parking fees. To park, you walk out, you get to a bus, you hop on a bus, you get your bus, drive the 5 miles home. It's wonderful. They're strongly used in other cities where there are incentives to use it. Okay, and I see so far, I've seen nothing about it in Freddie's transit plan.
Nor have I. But Jim, and I'm not trying to challenge you here, but what communities? I mean, Atlanta has a park and ride, but a lot of times those park and ride services are designed to get people to carpool, not to take them from their cars and put them on mass transit.
Well, that's one component of it, but the system we have here right now is my late brother-in-law used to drive for a bus line here in town, and he used to run a bus up from, I think it was Columbia, every morning and take it down home at night. And it was not well used. And if it's publicized and incentives are given to the employers to encourage their people to take these, yes, you're right. Carpooling is a component of it, and that.
Look, park and ride. I mean, and Jim, I'm not trying to cut you short because I want to give you a moment to think about number one again if you got it. But park and ride is not appealing to people because people don't want to ride a bus if they don't have to. And it's the weight of the balance of the traffic congestion that exists wherever you might be going in downtown Nashville versus the pain in the butt that it is to park somewhere out of the city and get on a bus and ride a bus in. I've long maintained that people don't ride the bus because they want to. They ride the bus because they have to. And I think traffic congestion would have to be considerably greater in the city of Nashville before park and ride would become an appealing option to most people. That's just me. I mean, I'm not against it, but that's just my take on it.
Well, that's possible.
Did you think of point one while we were talking?
I did.
Okay.
The LPRs. Now, I didn't listen to your entire half hour, so you may have covered it. But the argument against the license plate readers that they've been placed mainly in minority sections of town. I don't know what the criteria were for the trial program as to how we're going to decide where to put them. Okay, I don't know where that is. How they decided that, but logic would tell you. I mean, remember what the famous bank robber said, "Why do you rob banks?"
It's because that's where the money is, right? I mean, yeah, you put and Jim, I got to cut it short because I got to get to a break, but thank you for the call. Thank you for waiting. Here's the deal. You put the license plate readers where the crime is. Period, end of discussion. Now, those that want to cause issues would suggest, well, you're putting these in areas that are majority African American or whatever. That's not why they're being put there. They're being put there because statistically that's where the crime is. We're trying to prevent crimes. We're trying to solve crimes. You solve crimes by going to where the crimes are and using the technology available to you to eliminate crime in those areas. And non-criminals appreciate that, and it doesn't matter what color their skin is. Thank you, Jim, for the call. 20 minutes after the hour on Super Talk. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling have the best value around on tune-ups, and I want to tell you all about it. Now's the time of year to think about it, right? I've been telling you for a month or so that it's time to get your heater tuned up, because whether you have 1 unit, 2 units, or 3 units, you never pay more than $125 with Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling to service your heating unit. That's on your residential property, right? So all you have to do is make the call, and oftentimes it's much less than $125. At some point, you have to replace. And we don't wish that on you. Jeff Eddy doesn't wish that on you. He's going to try to get maximum life out of your heating unit. But if it's time, it's time. And they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. They're ready to offer you a suggestion about which way to go with regard to your heater. They also offer financing on your next unit. Just ask them about that when you make the call to Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. EfficientHVAC.net for more information about that maintenance call. EfficientHVAC.net, or call today and schedule that appointment. 615-784-4424. 784-4424 for Efficient.
Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell pushes back at the notion the total cost of the transportation referendum is being hidden from voters. We'll tell you about it at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Cannot wait. There's Ken Weaver. My name is Matt Murphy. Bell K's behind the glass, screening your telephone calls. You on the phones. We'll get to you momentarily. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Look, I understand your consternation and your suspicion over how this interview is going to go. All I can tell you is we don't get a lot of these opportunities with Kamala Harris. She's not going to put herself in a position. I don't think she's going on Joe Rogan's show for a second. I mean, the suggestion is they're trying to, quote unquote, work it out. It's my understanding that when you go on Joe Rogan's show, that he asks you for 3 hours of your time, and then they edit it from there. Brett Baier, it's my understanding, received somewhere along the lines of, or will receive somewhere along the lines of 30 to 45 minutes. Brett Baier has said, and one of you, and I forget who it was on the super text line, one of you mentioned, hey, it's pre-recorded, so they'll edit it. Well, what he said was that it would be an unedited interview, that it was pre-recorded, but they were going to air it in its entirety without edits. So we can decide for ourselves whether or not they honor that commitment. Bottom line is, I don't need to convince you. I mean, for those of us that are concerned that Fox News is not exactly representing the truth or American values, we don't need to win you over on the issue of Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. No offense to you. I need to enter the minds of those skulls of mush that are actually considering voting for Kamala Harris and really expose her for what she is to those people, so that they can overcome whatever objections they might have against Donald Trump and ultimately decide to vote Trump. Or not vote. I mean, in some cases, we can't even get them to a Trump vote, but we can get them to a sit home. There's value in that, and there's nothing wrong in it. If you can't find someone that you support, there's nothing wrong with writing in a candidate. Hell, write in Bell K for all I care. Good luck spelling it. Nobody spells the last name correctly. Nobody.
And I found out from when Natisha was in here that if you don't spell it right, it's like right out the wasted.
Well, that's right. That's right. I mean, M-U-R-P-H-Y. Matthew. Matthew or Matt works. I think we would get credit for both. I got there was a gubernatorial vote where I got almost as many votes as Nick Saban one year.
How many did Nick get?
Like 120.
Did he? Was that a normal occurrence in an election year?
Oh, for Nick Saban to get votes? Oh, yeah. I've long said that Nick Saban, he was a big buddy of Joe Manchin's, West Virginia senator.
Right.
And Joe is a longtime Democrat, and Joe says, I can't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me. I'm a Democrat lifelong, yada, yada, yada. So much of the speculation is that Nick Saban would be a Democrat. And I was well on record in Alabama that the only Democrat that could win statewide election, like a governor's election in the state, would be Nick Saban.
Yeah,
I think if Nick Saban ran as a Democrat, he could win in Alabama, and he's the only Democrat that could win in Alabama. That said, you can vote none of the above. That's perfectly acceptable as well. Oh, congratulations to several of you. 9009 and Renee have both spelled Bell's name correctly, which is quite impressive. I'm not going to tell you how to spell it on air, but no, that's not it, Michael. That's not it. 3047 says, long lines went quickly. I had a 20-minute wait to vote at the Madison Library. Congratulations on exercising your constitutional rights. Jimmy is in McMinnville next. Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Hey, sir, doing very well.
Glad
I just want to report that here the lines are about 30, 40 people outside the door and going quick since they opened the polls this morning.
Love it. Absolutely love it. You're voting today?
And the conversation is all good.
Well, I know what you mean there, Jimmy. That's good stuff. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I just had to let you know because I very rarely do I have to wait in line to vote in Warren County because we are a small county, but today I had to.
Well, and there's a lot of concern, and I get it, and and thank you, Mr. Jimmy, for the update. I understand. Chris Hand and I were talking about it, and Chris is like, I'm just old school. I can't pull the trigger before voting day. I'm the same way. I will wait until November 5th, and I know that probably means I'm going to stand in a longer line, but I don't care. I want to vote on Election Day. That's when I want to vote. And if it were up to me, this system would not exist that we currently have. If it were up to me, you know what? States can do what states want to do, but when it comes to a presidential election, I'm giving you a 72-hour period to vote. The only people that don't vote in that 72-hour window are people with excused absentee reasons for not voting, to include physical infirmity, military deployment, and other reasons. We would have a list of those excused reasons to apply for an absentee ballot. You would have to have a photo identification in order to vote. You would have a 72-hour period to vote. If you want that on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, if you want that on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if you want that on a Friday, Saturday, I don't care, whatever 24-hour or rather whatever 72-hour period you want, I would set up a 72-hour period of voting. And that's it. Exercise your constitutional rights. Absentee only when absolutely necessary and for excused reasons. Well, Matt, you're making it harder to vote. You know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with suggesting that, considering how many people have died to ensure the freedoms and liberties that we currently enjoy, that we sacrifice by standing in line for a little bit to go and vote. I'm not intentionally trying to make it harder to vote. I want to make it harder to cheat. Harder to cheat. When you've got a 30 or 45-day window to vote, that makes it easier for the bad guys to cheat. It's 30 after the hour on Super Talk.
.2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And right now, election 2024. Early voting underway in Tennessee through October 31st. And Secretary of State Trey Hargett came on WTN's Matt Murphy Show to explain how Tennesseans in the Hurricane Helene flood-impacted counties are getting their chance.
We're working hard to make sure that every Tennessee voter that wants to vote can vote. We have personally visited with every election administrator in those affected counties, and working to make sure they have a plan for their respective county.
He used Carter County as an example, saying officials there had to move polling locations because 2 sites they had are gone due to the flood. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell pushes back on the WTN Matt Murphy Show when asked about the critics who say there is a lack of transparency on the ballot for the transit tax when it could cost more than twice the $3.1 billion, which voters will see on the ballot.
So you're saying the lack of transparency on this piece of legislation that we'll be voting on November 5th is the fault of the Metro Council, not you.
I would not call it a lack of transparency. I would say in both cases, in 2018 and this year, the overall recommendation was to comply fully with the Improve Act and the legal requirements for ballot language, take it to the Metro Council who get to approve it. In 2018, they made one decision. 2024, they made a different.
Mayor O'Connell says it's like financing something like a car or house or anything. He says it requires interest rates. The massive recall prompted by listeria concerns among 10 million pounds of pre-cooked meat products is affecting some of the most popular grocery stores across the country. And the new list includes Walmart, Publix, Target, Aldi, Amazon, Trader Joe's, and more. We're talking about sandwiches, wraps, and salads as the primary prepared foods affected by the recall, with meat made by Bruce Pack, which was distributed nationwide. The USDA is continuing to update the list of affected products and suggests checking back at fsis.gov frequently. The USDA says don't eat that meat. Instead, throw it out and return them, or you could return it to the place of purchase. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I've seen the incredible shoot room that they're calling the Spook Room for the month of October at the Glock store. It's pretty cool. You've got spooky, lights and spooky cobwebs and maybe a spider or two and spooky zombie targets or bad guy targets. And did you know that if you go in and for $30, if you run the course, it will include, your $30 fee will include 20 rounds of ammunition. They'll also give you a Glock model handgun to use to run the course because they want everybody to use the same model Glock in running the course. This is a little bit of a contest that they're doing at Glock Store all the month of October, and you could win a $1,000 customized Glock for being the best shot of the month. How about that? The Glock store is minutes away from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere. And I've seen this Glock. It's pretty cool. It's got a, the slide is black, of course, but the frame, the body of the gun, it's designed in a Halloween pattern. They've got jack-o'-lanterns and spooks on there. It's pretty cool, and you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. It's a great gun. They have all manner of customized guns at the Glock store in all October. $30 for 15 minutes, including 20 rounds of ammunition and gun rental. All you have to do is stop by the Glock store. They have extended hours on Friday and Saturday until 7 o'clock for this purpose. Glockstore.com or shoot270.com. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. J.K. and Erica Brister are the owners of U.S. Pest. It's been growing by leaps and bounds since they took over ownership. Why do you think that is? Well, because they hire good people. They are good people, and they hire good people to do good things to help you prevent the communist pests that want to come into your home from getting into your home. And now's that time of year, right? I mean, you're sitting on the sofa, you're enjoying football, you're kicked back, you're enjoying the fall weather and the cooler conditions. And do you know what's happening around you right now? All of these bugs and pests and mice and rats and whatnot, they're trying to get into your house. They want to eat your tailgating snacks. Well, you need to prevent this by calling J.K., Erica, and the rest of the team at U.S. Pest, because they will put a barrier between your snacks and those pests. That's what it's all about, right? Putting that barrier of protection around you and around your home. Let's get it done together. Let's go to uspest.com for a free home inspection, or better yet, make a call today at 590-1260. 590-1260 for our friends at U.S. Pest. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, getting to as many of you as possible. Also talking about this this Kamala Harris interview that's happening a little bit later on, anticipating that. Man, oh man, we're down to it, right? Less than 3 weeks to go. 20 days to go before we crescendo to Election Day. Did you know that it's also, you know what today is, Belle? You want to just guess? You know, we like to declare, I mean, it's a national day, or it's actually an international day. Do you know what today is? You want to guess?
Well, it's not Columbus Day. That was on Monday.
No, that was Monday. You were sick. That's exactly right, Bell. It's International Pronouns Day.
Oh, well, no wonder I didn't care.
It's International Pronouns Day. And I would like to remind all of you that Matt Murphy, your humble host, I have preferred pronouns. When referring to me in the third person, I prefer the pronoun His Royal Highness. That was Bell pooting on the radio. That was not me.
That was absolutely you.
I prefer, when referring to me, for example, if you're trying to say I was listening to Matt the other day on the radio, you would say I was listening to His Royal Highness on the radio the other day. Why is that funny to me? I don't know.
Because we're 12.
So if you want to know what my preferred pronouns are, they are His Royal Highness. Thank you. Rhonda is next in Nashville. Hey, Rhonda, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for calling.
I just wanted to say I just went and voted for my man, Donald J. Trump.
There you go, Rhonda. Love hearing that.
And voted against the tax thing, because if anybody cannot vote for Donald J. Trump and vote for Kamala, they can't have no good plan.
I agree with you. I tried to give you heard. Did you hear me earlier? I tried to give Freddie an out. I tried to say, hey, if you vote for Trump, I'll promote your tax plan. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it. So I said, if he's voting for Kamala, he can't have no good plan. So, and another thing, I got one more point to hit on. They put all that money in Kamala's, or however you say it, into her campaign, and it ain't just because they hate Trump. It's because when P. Diddy's list comes out, they're going to have somebody to pardon them, because Donald J. Trump's not going to pardon them, and it's a bunch of them. It's coming down. It's going down.
Rhonda, I like your style. Call me anytime, okay?
Yep.
I love it. Thank you, Rhonda, for the call. I appreciate you. Warren is next in the borough with a thought on the transit tax. Hey, Warren, how are you?
Good. You, Matt?
I'm doing great.
Okay, great. I drive for a living. I've been driving the Davidson County roads for about 3 or 4 years now. I challenge people to look at these WeGo buses and actually count the number of people on those buses. And if they're 20% full, I would be very surprised. Now, I don't live in Davidson County, but I challenge the Davidson County voters, when they're driving around, just look at the buses and see how full they are. And in my opinion, they are operating at about an 80% inefficiency rate. And if they're going to use tax money like that, I don't think they deserve any more.
Warren, great point, and I agree with you. People ride the bus because they have to, not because they want to. I've said it for a long time. It's a pretty obvious statement, but it is true. And right now, you do not have ridership that merits asking for more money to increase bus service necessarily. Now, if you want to make the argument that you need to create efficiencies by going to different places and you believe that there is a demand for it, tell me where that demand is. Is there a demand for bus service out of Nolensville? I don't see it if it exists. Is there a demand for bus service out of Mount Juliet? Is there a demand for bus service out of Goodlettsville? I don't see it because it doesn't exist. I do see this, by the way. We've got the big presidential election watch party coming up on the 5th of next month. The SuperTalk 99.7 WTN presidential election party will be at the James Ward Ag and Community Center at the Wilson County Fairgrounds. That is known as the Tennessee Room. It is a huge room with the state of Tennessee right there in it. We'll be up on the main stage broadcasting all evening long. Brian Wilson gets it cranked up at 3 o'clock the afternoon of Election Day. Join me, join Dan Mandis, Chris Hand, and the aforementioned Mr. Wilson for live coverage of the election presented by U.S. Pest on Tuesday, November 5th. Now, the election watch party is free to attend for all ages. Food and beverage will be available for purchase. It's my understanding there will be beverage for the youngsters, beverage for those of you who do not imbibe, and perhaps beverages for those who wish to imbibe. Join us in Lebanon for election night in the good old USA. And if you're looking for VIP tickets, you can click a VIP link on 997WTN.com if you go to our events page. The VIP tickets include an all-inclusive ticket to the presidential election party. It includes food and beverage. It includes alcohol for those of you who are 21 and up. It includes VIP seating and a goodie bag for VIPs. And I'm adding something right here now, Belke. You ready?
I know.
I just thought of this. Tell me if this is a good idea or bad idea. For those that purchase a VIP ticket to our election watch party, you remember my Trump shoes?
Yes.
I'll be wearing the Trump shoes that night. I'm going to give away those Trump shoes.
What size shoe you wear?
I think the shoes are 11 and a half. I wear 12.
Okay.
They're a little tight on me. What about you?
I wear 12. Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be there, right?
Of course not.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm not.
What do you mean not?
I'm not going to be there.
What if it's a work requirement?
It's not.
How do you know?
Because I've delved into these situations.
Well, it's a once every 4-year opportunity for you to step out of your comfort zone here. I mean, what do you think? You're going to get up close and personal with one of our listeners and get another
get a cold
bout of the flu?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Well, whatever.
I'll get a brain tumor.
Whether you're there or not, I'm giving away the shoes on the night of the election.
I think it'd be cool.
To a person that purchases, so that's going to be included in the VIP ticket package. We're going to do a giveaway to VIP. I need to make sure that that's not a giveaway that has consideration attached to it. Well, I know it's a part of the package. So, yeah, whatever. We'll figure it out. But I'm giving away the shoes the night of. So, be there and get VIP tickets by going to 997WTN.com. You'll get goodie bags. You can have a drink or two if you're 21 or up, and food or beverage availability for you. It includes all food and beverage, and you get premier seating to our presidential election watch party, which is happening once again at the Ward Ag and Community Center, Wilson County Fairgrounds, the Big Tennessee Room, it's known as.
Can I make a suggestion real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't wear the shoes.
Why not?
Just take them with you, but don't wear
them. Okay. Are you suggesting that I have a foot odor?
No, but it just sounds better to say that.
So you want me to take the shoes?
Yeah, but not wear them.
Well, they take the shoes right off of my feet. I'll bring
they take
other
the shirt
shoes
off your back too, but they're not supposed to be doing that.
But I got to wear the shoes. What are you talking about? I'll take it under consideration.
All right.
You're saying don't wear the shoes, and I might get more interest.
Yes.
All right. You might have a point. Virginia is coming up right after. Who is next? I think it's Earl in Nashville. Hey, Earl.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Earl.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about the transportation plan. You know, I think it's probably the same plan that Megan Barry tried to push through years ago, and I don't believe the $3 billion is too much, but I don't think it's going to come in at $3 billion. I think that's just to get us in the door, and it'll probably balloon to $5 or $6 billion. And I don't think this city is not set up for mass transportation like that. And I used to live in Philadelphia as a kid, and I've been to most of the major cities that have trains and L's and stuff, and their population density around the rails is way higher than Nashville. We're just used to driving our cars, getting our cars going where we want to go, and I don't think they can spend all the money they want to, but people are just not going to stop getting in their cars and doing what they want to do just because you put it in place. I look at now, they have bike lanes all over town. I never see any bikes in the lanes, but they've torn up streets and taken lanes away from busy streets to put bike lanes in. And I think the whole plan is more about checking off the green box. Look at me, look at us. We're green over here. We're doing green stuff. But as far as benefiting the citizens of Nashville, I don't think it's going to. And one more thing on a different topic, I just went to the Bordeaux Branch Library where they're doing early voting, and I don't know what's going on with the Tennessee Republican Party. I didn't see not one Trump sign in that whole parking lot, and there's probably 100 signs out there. They need to get off their ass and get with it. And I'm done.
I love it, Earl. Oh, I love it, Earl. Get in, make the point, get out. Pithy, cogent, love everything about that. And yes, you're right about the Tennessee GOP. And, oh, by the way, for those of you sending me photographs of the signs in Mount Juliet, we are aware of the signs in Mount Juliet. They are intentionally leaving those signs up that have been defaced in Mount Juliet to show the opposition as they are. We want to make sure that everybody sees those signs and sees what people are doing to those signs, those Trump ban signs. Who really believes in democracy? It's 2:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Winding down our portion of the day, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show. Handing off to Brian Wilson in the drive in mere moments to get a preview of what's happening on the drive today. The one and only Brian Wilson joins us. Hello, Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. I'm anticipating your show, obviously, as I always do. I'm also anticipating this Kamala Harris-Brett Baier conversation happening later on today. What about you?
Well, I am too, and in fact, that's going to play out, in our 5 o'clock hour here in Middle Tennessee, and we're going to be doing our best to turn around some sound from that as soon as it happens. And at the very best, I know we'll have some of it for the 6 o'clock hour of our program. But yeah, and I'm going to open up my phones here in a bit and ask people, okay, if you had the chance to ask Kamala Harris a question, if you were Brett Baier, what would you ask? Now, I have a question that I think has not been asked of her by any of the softball interviewers who have sat down with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping, in fact, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I have Brett Baier's email account.
Oh.
And I sent him this question as a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
And all I got back, I think he's probably getting inundated with ideas. I got back a thank you. So I'm hoping he noted it, and who knows? Maybe that question will get asked.
I'm getting a lot of response from folks today who are out and about early voting. You think that's a good thing, Brian? I do.
Yeah, I do. In this particular case, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I voted this morning at about 9 o'clock. Went down to the voting place here in Watertown and cast my ballot. Me and Cabana wife went over together, and it was busy. And I was glad to see it. A lot of people already in before me, and as I've heard from other people saying that it was pretty busy traffic today, and I think that's because people are taking heed of the fact that we need to get these ballots in early instead of waiting for Election Day. If you know who you're going to vote for, and I don't know that there are many people within the sound of our voice right now who don't have an idea who they're going to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and get it out of the way. Because as I say, on Election Day, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and sometimes, no matter your best intentions, life intervenes and you get stuck on a certain day. So take care of it early.
What are we cranking up with on the drive today, Brian?
Well, election 2024, some sound from both Kamala Harris and Trump, and then we'll open up the phone lines. There's also interesting crime news. Donald Trump was right when he said that the FBI was not being honest about their crime statistics. There's a new story out on that today. And we've got a lot of local crime as well that's very concerning, so we'll talk about both those things.
There he is, Brian Wilson, coming up in mere seconds on Super Talk 99.7 WTN right after Ken Weaver's news, which is happening right now. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a wonderful afternoon. Hug your love.